Good evening. It is my extreme pleasure to be able to welcome you as the chair of ADL's Rocky Mountain Board to tonight's program, If Not Now, When? As you know, tonight we're here to celebrate Shelly Steinhauser with a Lifetime Achievement Award. He served as ADL's regional board chair, but then he made a career out of fighting injustice every step of the way, starting with 1965's March with Martin Luther King Jr., all the way up to the present. I was really lucky this past spring. I got to go with about 40 people along with Shelly Steinhauser to do a civil rights tour down to Alabama and to Georgia. It was truly moving, emotional, and awe-inspiring to get to see Shelly crossing the famed Edmund Pettus Bridge some 55 years after the original marchers in Selma, Alabama crossed that bridge only to be attacked with billy clubs, horses, and tear gas. We're going to get to more of Shelly's story as the night progresses, but first I want to really thank very sincerely our board members who have helped guide us through this really challenging 2020. You know, I recently heard somebody compare this year to Jonah being swallowed by a whale. And I have to say it does feel like we have been engulfed by this enormous creature who doesn't seem to be in much of a hurry to spit us out. It's undeniable that the pandemic has taken a toll on everybody. We've lost over 200,000 Americans. We have had broad economic impact and fallout on devastated families and businesses. We are politically polarized, and there's a divisive social turmoil that's tearing at the very fabric in our communities. In our wildest dreams, we would not have imagined this. That is why I am especially grateful to my colleagues on the board who have doubled down on their leadership, to our tireless staff, and most of all, to every donor who makes a choice. You've made a choice to support ADL so that we can continue our work fighting injustice, racism, and bigotry, along with anti-Semitism and bullying wherever we see it. So, I'd like to take a brief pause and spend the evening away from those issues. We acknowledge them, but tonight we want to celebrate the enormous amount of work that ADL has been able to do this year and to celebrate Shelly Steinhauser's 90 years of fighting injustice for all of us. Tonight, let's inscribe Hillel's famous quote on our hearts, not just for tonight, but for the days ahead. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?
The work we do is made possible by the funding provided by our generous supporters. We are especially grateful for your support in this challenging year. Regarding the event tonight, at the Defender level, we are thankful for the consistent, high-level support from our good friends Barry and Gay Curtiss-Lusher, who are also the executive producers for tonight's event. Additionally, we would like to thank our sponsors at the advocate level, Jeffrey Bain and Rabbi Anat Moskowitz, the Bender West Foundation, Peggy Goldman, Ibex Investors, MDC Richmond American Homes, Elisa Moran and Gary Kleiman, Cheri and Alan Rubin, and the Staenberg Family Foundation. We would also like to thank our ambassador level sponsors, we would like to thank our ally level sponsors. And finally, we would like to thank our supporter level sponsors. we hope you will accept our deep appreciation. You make not only this event possible, but the important work that ADL does every day. Thank you.
It is so great to see everyone here tonight. Well, actually, you can see me. I can't see you, but I know you're there. It is a testament to Shelly Steinhauser that so many people have tuned in tonight's presentation. You know, I don't need to tell you, but this has been an extraordinarily difficult year. Certainly, the election is over, but it's unsettling to know how this transfer of power is going to take place. We also know that COVID is hanging over everything that we do, whether it's the kids in school, or it's businesses, the economy, or more importantly, all of our health that's in jeopardy at this time. It's almost overwhelming, but I take solace and comfort in the immortal words of Rabbi Tarfon. You're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist with it. Now, we know that we can't solve every problem that's out there, but we're not going to stop trying. And so I want, if you'll indulge me a bit, to be able to show you the kind of work that we've been doing over the past year at the ADL. And I want you to then be able to see where we're going from there. The year started, as it always did, by evaluating what had happened during the prior year. And unfortunately, what we saw was a tremendous number of anti-Semitic incidents. Every state across the country had an anti-Semitic incident that was on the mainland. And we saw that this was a higher number than we had had since the ADL started recording incidents in 1979. There were over 2,100 of them. And that includes, as you can see, in our region, in Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. And unfortunately, I know from where we're at in this year so far that the number is probably going to rise. And this isn't just a new phenomenon or one that happened in this administration. It's been really going on for about 5 or 6 years where we've hit this plateau that has made things so difficult in the country. One of the things that we started the year doing was to try and reestablish some relationships that happened back when Shelly Steinhauser was the director of the Mountain States region of ADL. These traditional relationships with the Jewish and Black community. And I was so privileged back in January to be a recipient of an award from the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Colorado Holiday Commission. And following that, we did what we've been doing for 35 years. We participated in the parade to honor Dr. King and march from City Park down to Civic Center. And then we helped put on with the Greater Metropolitan Denver Ministerial Alliance and my friend Bishop Jerry Demmer, we put on the interfaith service at Temple Sinai. And I think that that connection helped us when we got to things that were not so helpful later in the year. In February, before we got to the point of being closed down by COVID, we held our Civil Rights Awards reception. And we honored the Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network and Emma Shin. She's a trans activist and was the co-founder and past director of the Colorado Name Change Project. Today, I'm proud to say she's a Marine Judge Advocate General. And then how we snuck this in, I don't know, but from February 16th to 18th, 44 of us traveled down to Alabama and Georgia on a civil rights journey. Elisa mentioned it. Shelly was our scholar in residence. And to have both Shelly and Rabbi Steve Foster there, who had marched in 1965, was extraordinarily meaningful. One quick highlight from that trip, when we were in Atlanta, we went to the church that Dr. King had been the minister at, the Ebenezer Baptist Church. And who did we hear give a sermon? It was Reverend Warnock, who is now in the runoff election to be the next senator from Georgia. Before COVID hit, we were actively involved in things happening in the legislature. Here, Laura Perlov is one of our board members, is testifying in the Colorado legislature on the Holocaust and Genocide Education in Public Education bill, which was successful. But we not only were active in that bill, we also were active in opposing 6 anti-LGBTQ bills. We supported the Crown Act. We supported an act to prohibit courthouse civil arrests. And we monitored the legislation in New Mexico and Wyoming and started to form a coalition in Wyoming to hopefully be able to bring a hate crimes bill finally to that state. And I just wanted to show you on July the 8th, we gathered before Jewish Colorado for the signing of that Holocaust and Genocide Education bill. And what a wonderful picture this is of Fanny Starr of blessed memory. She just passed away a couple weeks ago, a Holocaust survivor who was really the heart and soul of the movement to gain that education bill. It was the first time in 3 months I think I'd been out in public within any proximity of anybody outside of my family. And it was such an honor to be there when Governor Polis signed that bill. We weren't able to hold our Governor's Holocaust Remembrance Program. As you know, we typically have 1,700 people at Temple Emmanuel. Instead, we presented a video of Colorado Holocaust survivors and of our keynote speaker who could actually answer questions because it was handled virtually. And then May 25th came, and sort of a 401-year reckoning occurred for many of us as George Floyd died under the knee of a police officer. And again, those relationships that were established at the beginning of the year with the Black community were extraordinarily helpful. Bishop Demmer and I, for instance, wrote this great, what I thought, guest commentary that appeared in the Denver Post calling for an end to systemic racism. But incidents continued to happen this year, and it wasn't just against the Jewish community, because ADL's mission is not just to fight anti-Semitism, but it's also to secure justice and fair treatment to all. This is Lakwat Singh. He's the owner of the Two Angels liquor store, he and his wife. And in late April, somebody came into his store and they destroyed some of the merchandise, told them to go back to where their country was. And when Mr. Singh went out to record the license plate number of the perpetrator, the terrible man backed up and ran over Mr. Singh. He was in the hospital for months. ADL helped to advocate that hate crimes charges be brought in the case against the perpetrator. Down in New Mexico in Santa Fe, this is the India restaurant that's down there. And this is the horrific kind of graffiti and vandalism that took place. And I think these are sort of proof points. Here's an India restaurant owned by a Hindu man. Mr. Singh is a Sikh man. The perpetrators probably thought they were attacking Muslims. It doesn't matter. For the work of the Anti-Defamation League, if you're Muslim, you're Sikh, you're Hindu, you're Jewish, you're Christian, it does not matter. Hate is hate, and it's something that we're going to fight against. Here in Colorado, I'm pleased to report that Richard Holzer, the guy who tried to bomb Temple Emmanuel in Pueblo, Colorado, and thank goodness the FBI interceded to stop him, he finally pled guilty on October the 15th to a federal hate crimes charge. In all three of these incidents, ADL was in touch with law enforcement of support to the victims and drawing attention of the public to these hate crimes in the hope that they don't happen again. And then we started this fall with a new school year, and No Place for Hate schools across Colorado, one down in New Mexico, have really responded. It's amazing. 61 schools finished No Place for Hate at the end of last year. And this year, when schools are having to do things online, to be virtually in class or hybrid at best, 93 schools have signed up, an increase of 50%. It's just simply amazing, but it's a recognition of the great work that ADL does with its anti-bias programs. And then with the election, we're a nonpartisan organization. We don't support one candidate or the other, but we can get involved in policy issues. And we strongly opposed Proposition 115, which was the proposition in Colorado to ban abortions after 22 weeks. And we did so not just because a woman should have a right to choose, she should. And not just because a woman should have control over her own body, she should. But we also get involved because we don't believe that any one religious view on when life begins or on anything should dominate against any other views. We also became very involved in election security issues. As a matter of fact, 4 people from our office were part of a surge across the country of ADL staff to help our Center on Extremism monitor, analyze, write, and report about the actions of extremists. And what we did is we even got together with over 40 representatives from the governor's office, Secretary of State, Attorney General, Colorado Bureau of Investigation, other law enforcement, to brief them on what the extremists were trying to do and are still trying to do after the election. And so we're staying very much alert to that. In this troubled time, I guess the question that we really have to ask is, what is it that we can do to help bring people together? We know that there is much dissension in this world, but we're going to double down. And we're going to do that by continuing to investigate, monitor, analyze what it is that the bad guys are doing, and to share information with law enforcement. We're going to continue to educate students and adults. We're going to try to make sure that anti-bias education is primary at the top of what kids should be doing to improve the culture and climate. We're going to continue to work with legislatures. Hopefully the work that we're doing in Wyoming might result in this session or the next in a hate crime bill. Finally, it goes to the state where Matthew Shepard was so tragically killed for no reason other than the fact that he was gay. And we're going to work so hard to continue to build coalitions with all communities who are there. Because you see, we're, like Rabbi Tarfon said, we're not going to maybe finish all of these things. It may not all work out. But with all of your help, we absolutely, definitely are not going to cease trying. So I thank you for all of your support that makes all of that possible. And now it is my absolute pleasure to be able to introduce to you Francesca Rubin, who has an outstanding song, I'm sure you'll agree, in tribute to Shelly Steinhauser. She's backed up by longtime ADL board member and mother, Cheri Rubin, and by uncle, Dr. Brian Adnoff. Thank you. Take it away, Francesca.
The 3 questions Rabbi Hillel posed 2,000 years ago perfectly capture how you, Mr. Steinhauser, lead your life. You stood up for yourself, but you didn't focus so much on your own well-being that you couldn't see the pain of others. You make it a habit to show up. We dedicate this song, If Not Now, When, to you. Nili mili ukshani לעצמי מה אני ואם לא עכשיו אימתי אם לא עכשיו אימתי אם אין אני לי מילי וכשאני לעצמי מה אני ואם לא עכשיו אימתי אם לא עכשיו אימתי If I am not for me, who will be? If I am just for me, what does that make me? And if not now, then when? If not now, then when? If I am not for me, who will be? If I am just for me, what does that make me? And if not now, then when?
We're so pleased to be here tonight to honor Shelly Steinhauser, while our friend Dan Cohen will start up the presentation. That would be super.
Good evening. My name is David Hauptman, one of the development co-chairs for the Mountain States region. I am proud to introduce Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of ADL, our sixth national director. As chief executive of ADL, Jonathan leads all aspects of the world's leading anti-hate organization. He is an accomplished entrepreneur, innovative leader with deep experience in the private and public and nonprofit sectors. Since becoming CEO in 2015, Jonathan has modernized ADL while refocusing it on the mission it has had since founding in 1913, to fight the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment for all.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO and National Director of ADL. I'm honored to have the privilege of acknowledging my friend Shelly Steinhauser for his incredible contributions to ADL over the decades. First, as an acclaimed regional director of our Mountain States region, and then as a board member. And in both roles, Shelly has worked tirelessly to bring ADL's mission to life, regardless of the challenges we faced. I won't reiterate Shelly's history here. Frankly, many of you already know it. But what I'd like to do is to point out how apt it is that Shelly should be the first recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award under the banner of Denver's new If Not Now, When campaign. You know, when we first examine Hillel's famous dictum, we're reminded that each of us has an authentic, unique self, an exceptional I, if you will. If we do not reveal that I, the part of ourselves that is most unique, then who are we? Hillel reminds us that the most purposeful thing we can do with our lives is to be, if you will, fully ourselves, with no apologies and no excuses. I can think of few people in the ADL family who better exemplify this ethos than Shelly. He fully embodies this principle as much as anyone that I know. He was and remains, even at his station in life, driven to make this world a better place. I think that's why he was put here on earth, to fight for others as well as himself, and to never hesitate when those around him are being oppressed or excluded or marginalized in any way, shape, or form. I think Shelly can teach us many things, but perhaps his most important lesson is the one that he himself lives every day. Be yourself, and in doing so, do as much good as possible along the way. I, for one, am proud to follow in his footsteps. You know, I first met Shelly before I started as the full-time CEO back in 2015. I met him on a visit to Denver early in that year. And to hear his story, to see the passion that still invigorates him and is so readily abundant in his persona, it was energizing for me, and it was inspiring as I thought of what I hope to do as CEO of this organization. So I want to use this opportunity not only to recognize how deserving he is of this award, but to thank him from the bottom of my heart, to thank him on behalf of Ben Epstein, on behalf of Nate Perlmutter, on behalf of Abe Foxman, on behalf of the entire professional leadership of this organization, who for generations have benefited from his extraordinary contributions to our success, and to his almost inestimable contribution to our place and our standing in the community, the Jewish community, the civil rights community, and our country as a whole. Shelly, thank you for all that you've done for this organization, our community, and the country. Congratulations on this award.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Filer, and it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Mayor Michael B. Hancock. Mayor Hancock is currently serving as Denver's 45th mayor. As the youngest of 10 children, Michael grew up in Denver's northeast neighborhoods and graduated from Manual High School. He has dedicated his life's work to serving the people of the Mile High City, and his passion for Denver and Colorado has always been apparent. It is no coincidence that Mayor Hancock is joining us this evening. He and our honoree, Shelly Steinhauser, have a warm relationship that dates back many years to when the mayor worked for the National Civic League and Denver Housing Authority, prior to becoming the youngest president of the Urban League of Metro Denver. We are delighted to welcome Mayor Hancock to say a few words about his dear friend, Shelly Steinhauser.
Hello everyone, Mayor Hancock here. I wanted to take a moment to offer congratulations to my dear friend and really a mentor of mine, Shelly Steinhauser, on receiving ADL's Lifetime Achievement Award. I couldn't think of a better person to receive this honor at this time, or any time for that matter. You know, I met Shelly back in the 1990s when I was the head of the Urban League, and Shelly would invite me periodically to his social services or social work class. And I gotta tell you, I got to see this man and really began to recognize the true power of his personality and his convictions. He is a tremendous individual and someone that I absolutely fell in love with in terms of how he cared about the community and how he cared about social justice. I would come to find out that Shelly, since the 1950s, has dedicated his life to civil rights and civil justice. So now for over 70 years, Shelly has given us his very best, the best of his heart and his love. Shelly Steinhauser, you deserve this. To you and your entire family for sacrificing and giving us everything you had all of these years, we thank you. I love you, my man. Good luck and enjoy this Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh man, that is so great. Thank you, Mayor Hancock. Thank you, Jonathan Greenblatt. And now it's my pleasure to actually give Shelly the award. I want to let you know the first time I met Shelly, and I didn't really meet him, I was sitting in the audience. I was a law clerk 40 years ago, and my then boss, ADL board member Craig Fleischman, took me to a Society of Fellows luncheon. And I'll never forget it because it had all of the big names of the community that were there for that event. I don't remember who got an award. I don't remember what the theme was, but I remember Shelly Steinhauser speaking. The reason I remember that is because this was back in the era when they did card calling. Everybody had to fill out a pledge, and then they collected the pledges and they said how much money was raised at each table. And I was, at best a law clerk earning $7 an hour. But I was motivated to give a gift, and I went back into our system and it's still there and I could look it up. I gave $50. I mean, that was a lot of what would have been quarters I would have used in the pinball machine at law school at the time. But I was so moved by Shelly and the way that he spoke and the way he brought this mission to life. I became very involved with ADL as a volunteer after that, just about the time Shelly left to go become the CEO and director of the Allied Jewish Federation, what's now Jewish Colorado. And I participated in their young leadership program, just like I did ADL's, and was just so impressed always by everything that Shelly did. So, what a thrill it was when I joined ADL 10 years ago as a professional. And one of the first things I did was to make Shelly Steinhauser our first and only honorary board member. And we're so glad to do it. He's so, so deserving of this award. After he left here and he went to Allied Jewish Federation, Shelly didn't stop working until a couple of years ago, because he then went out to Anschutz, where he worked in the pharmacology school, helping them to raise money And throughout that entire time, he was a professor at Metropolitan State, first college and now university. And that sociology class that he taught that the mayor spoke at, Shelly used to invite me to come speak at as well. He's just such a hero in this area. His work, not just for the Jewish community, but the greater community. You have to remember that what he had done to ensure that we have fair housing and fair employment in Colorado. You know, the fact that he has recognized as a civil rights hero isn't just by us at the ADL. He was a co-founder of La Raza, which was now the Colorado Latino Learning and Advocacy Organization. And they have an award that is named the Sheldon Steinhauser Award for people who are engaged and involved in civil rights. I am so privileged to be in the position that I'm in and to be able to receive the accolades for ADL, but none of that would have been possible without Shelly. I've spoken to my predecessors, the great Bruce Dubosky and the great Saul Rosenthal, who held this position before me. All of us stood on Shelly's very broad shoulders, and how fortunate we were. But where I was really fortunate was that trip I talked about earlier and that Elisa referred to when we went down to Alabama and to Georgia. In 1965, as we said, Shelly answered the call of Martin Luther King Jr. when the people of Alabama wanted to march to Montgomery, to the state capitol for voting rights. They had been beaten terribly. A couple of weeks ago, that iconic pictures that you have of John Lewis being beat over the head and others being hosed and beaten. The thought was that if people could join them on the march, it would make it safer. But everybody that went down there took great risk. What I did not know until we were planning this trip, I had always thought that people like Shelly and Rabbi Foster that had been there, they marched over the bridge. But no, in Alabama, they only gave them a permit for something less than 100 people to be able to march over the bridge to get there. The masses that came down in support of them, Shelly being among them, joined in on that march about 10 miles outside of Montgomery. And the terrible things that happened to them along the lines, and the way it just, again, speaks to the great fortitude that all of them had. But to be able to go back there earlier this year, and for Shelly to get that opportunity to walk over the Edmund Pettus Bridge with his family, with his personal family and his ADL family, was just extraordinary. And I was so pleased to walk alongside with him and reflect on that. There is no question that if we're going to give our first time Lifetime Achievement Award, it can only go to Shelly Steinhauser. So I'm really pleased. You know, in this age of COVID, we'll have to figure out how to do the real handoff, but I'm going to virtually show you the award that we're giving to Shelly. It's a medal. This is a man who's got many awards up on his wall and statues, but this is going to be his first gold medal. And it's from ADL for his lifetime achievement. On the back of it, it has that wonderful quote from Hillel that Elisa said earlier: "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?" Can't think of anybody better. Shelly, we love you and congratulations.
Well, thank you, Scott, very, very much. You probably remember the old joke that you forgot to mention my humility. But anyway, that was very lovely. And I'm very, very grateful to you, the ADL staff, the board of the ADL, the volunteers, the donors to the campaign. Everybody has just been so generous and so gracious. And I'm really just amazed at the outpouring and the individual expressions that I've received. You know, I've really had two families in my life. My family of people like my most adored wife, who I'm still crazy about after all these years, our children, our grandchildren, other family members. and extended family. And then there's the ADL family. And I really became part of the ADL family, which kind of launched my ADL career in the late 40s when I was on college campus and used ADL as a resource because I got involved with wanting to fight discrimination in campus organizations, in fraternities and sororities and others. And I turned to ADL as a resource, and they were so forthcoming. And not only forthcoming, but they kept a record of my work with them. And so when I got out of school, I went to them and asked them if there was a job possible, and there was. So that's how, in a sense, it started a youth group, Jewish youth group that sent me to Albany, New York for a Fair Employment Practices Conference, ADL, of course. And I was fortunate to grow up in a home where service to the Jewish community, service to people, was one of our prime values. So I learned a lot. I became very engaged in the cause of human rights and civil rights and helping to repair the world. And I really never left it. So for 35 years, I had the privilege of working for ADL professionally. And I feel like I've never really left, even though I don't have any professional position. It's part of ADL, part of my family, as I said. And it was reinforced for me this year when I was on the civil rights tour sponsored by ADL and went to places like Atlanta, which really was the birthplace, not the official birthplace, of the ADL because of the Leo Frank case. And then to the Pettus Bridge, which was my, in a sense, when we went back to Montgomery, it was my return to Montgomery after having been in the march with Dr. King in 1965 and walking across that bridge and realize it's troubled and it's bloodied history, so that I was in this one tour reminded of ADL's joint mission so clearly to combat anti-Semitism and bigotry and to secure justice for all people. So that's been my life commitment, my life work. I've been so fortunate to stand on the shoulders of those who came before me and also to be so dependent on so many people, professionals, ADL staff and board, but so many people in the community who made my entire career and my commitment, really possible. I can't thank everyone enough. So the only thing I want to say in closing and thanking you again is to say the official campaign, I know, may be over, but there may be some people who feel motivated to still want to do something additional. And there may be some people who didn't get a chance to participate previously and want to now make a commitment. I don't think ADL will turn you down if you get in that mode. So I'm grateful, I'm so appreciative, I'm so thankful to the wonderful people that I've had a chance to work with. And all I can say is I'm 90, but so what? Let's keep it going. Everybody, every individual can make such a difference in this world. The way that John Lewis said, there are good troubles in this world. Let's make some more good troubles and see if we can make the world safer against white supremacism, safer against racial injustice, and know that we have done our very best to live up to making this a better world and repairing it that way. Thank you again so very much.
As we continue our tribute to Shelly Steinhauser with another musical selection, we'd like to offer our thanks to ADL board member Cheri Rubin. Along with producing this event with Michael Rudnick and playing piano in the first musical tribute, Cheri coordinated the musical performances for this evening. Several years ago, Cheri engaged gospel choir director Val Robinson and pianist Patrick Slaughter both of Zion Temple Church, to lend their musical talents to congregation Beth Evergreen. Zion Temple Church is a Pentecostal church in Denver, and congregation Beth Evergreen is a Reconstructionist synagogue in the foothills. The idea was for Val to collaborate with Rabbi Jamie Arnold to create a Kabbalat Shabbat gospel service, with Val teaching gospel songs to Beth Evergreen's choir, plus members of the Evergreen Chorale and B'nai Chaim, the Gospel Way, with Patrick on piano and band leading. With a few words changed and a little Hebrew added to the lyrics, the annual tradition of a contemporary gospel Kabbalat Shabbat service was born. The plan for this year was to combine members of Zion Temple's choir and Beth Evergreen's choir, and to have this blended choir lead services at both congregations in June. However, with the pandemic, the choir idea was nixed, and instead the collaboration morphed into 2 Zoomed services. Singing at both services was the trio you're about to hear. This uplifting cross-cultural expression could not be more fitting for tonight's tribute to my friend Shelly.
We are so grateful to be collaborating here and joining with the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, in this tribute to the work of the ADL and carrying on the legacy of Shelly Steinhauser. The song we're about to sing, "The Storm is Passing Over," names our experience these days in witnessing the societal toxins of bias growing into bigotry and becoming overt in our world. We are grateful for the work of the ADL and partnering with them, building coalitions in communities like ours, and creating educational forums for becoming aware of bias, putting in place the ways to confront and outgrow these biases and bigotry. And by working together, may we help the storm pass over.
Encourage my soul and let us journey on, for the night is dark and I am far from home. Thanks be to God, the morning light appears. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Encourage my soul and let us journey on. For the night is dark and I am far from home. Thanks be to God, the morning light appears. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. 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 The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. 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 The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Ooh, 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 ooh. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Ooh, 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 ooh. The storm The storm, the storm, the storm, the storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah.
As the prior board chair to Elisa, I am very familiar with ADL's programs, and they're all exceptional. There is something very special about No Place for Hate. This is a program that creates a better future. There is so much joy in seeing middle and high school students creating an inclusive society that will not tolerate bullying, exclusion, or divisiveness. Now, you may have seen this video before, and if you have, I'd encourage you to watch it again. Enjoy.
The school culture before No Place for Hate arrived just didn't feel as cohesive a community.
We've really seen that shift happen, especially over the last 10 years, as we've been a No Place for Hate school for the last 11 years. Making those incremental changes every single year has really shaped what Rampart is all about.
I've been in and out of No Place for Hate since my freshman year. It's a very powerful club.
We got really lucky about 4 years ago. Hadassah Nix came to Rampart. She loved film, and she took the best things about No Place for Hate more and more into our broadcast journalism program.
I've been involved with my video team to make videos about bullying and anti-bullying and anti-hate, and I think it's impacted students very well. It's impacted me.
The cool thing about No Place for Hate, it forms a core group within the school that spreads out to other groups. It's not just this little group doing little things. They're a little group inspiring others to do great things.
The No Place for Hate components of our school are just so ingrained everywhere. The language shows up at the Welcome Back to School events. It comes into our assemblies where, we used to have a tradition where we booed freshmen, and our student council a few years ago was like, that's not who we are. One of the things we did this year, we built a chain. We asked every student in the school to talk about their advocates, their allies, and a change they'd like to see in the world. I think that was this beautiful chance to recognize on an individual student basis that they have this great foundation to work with.
No Place for Hate supported me in my journey, helped me feel more confident of who I am and what I believe in. I think every student needs that voice to be heard.
All these kids and all these advisors became the movement that made students better, made our community better.
It's almost time to say goodnight, but please stay put for one more song we're going to get from the Zion Temple Church and Congregation Beth Evergreen Gospel Collaboration, and also a final shout out to Cheri Rubin, whose invaluable help made all this happen. Once more, I congratulate Shelly and his entire family, and I give my deepest thanks and appreciation to all of our donors, to our board, and to our staff. Without you, none of this can happen. We all share basic humanity, universal values, and common goals. And that connectivity is what helps us make our mission work. In closing, I want to quote a famous African proverb that sums up where we are. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Thank you so much for being together with us tonight. We appreciate you.
We feel it an honor and a privilege to be a part of this special celebration. Because of people like you, Sheldon Steinhauser, who took a stand when it wasn't popular to take a stand, who did not turn around but marched forward to end segregation and discrimination. For this, we say thank you. We will not bow down to racism.
We will not bow down to
injustice.
We will not bow down to
exploitation. I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna stand. I just can't tolerate racism.
Just can't tolerate
injustice.
I just can't tolerate no
exploitation. I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna stand. I can't let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. I can't let nobody turn me around. I got to keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
I can't let segregation
turn me around.
No,
turn me around.
No,
turn me around.
Oh, I can't let segregation
turn me around.
I gotta
keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
I can't let nobody
turn me around.
No, no, no,
turn me around.
Nobody
turn me around.
I can't let nobody
turn me around.
I got to
keep on walking,
yeah,
keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Down in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
We shall live in peace.
We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Down in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Down in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
If I am not for me, who will be? If I am just for me, what does that make me? And if not now, then when? I am not for me, who will be? If I am just for me, what does that make me?